Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. A few of you I have seen maybe exactly last year, same time here, so it's a little bit about reporting as well, what has been done, what we have done during the course of the last year, how we spent, in particular, the money. But I would like to take you with me on a journey into the energy transition, into electromobility, into electronics. So something that as well my previous speakers talked about. While I don't talk about lithium and copper and all of those metals, I'm talking about tin. Nobody has heard about tin, but tin is the important part of each and everything. That at least is the glue that joins together all the electrical connection. Or to say it quite bluntly, without tin there is no electrical connection, there is no current flowing, neither in our grid nor in any electrical vehicle. So I guess you can read it quite fast, so I will jump over that slide. Tin is a very rare metal, and it has been already declared a critical raw material quite a long time ago in the US. Just after World War II, the Americans identified tin is very critical because it joins together all the microelectronic, and just after World War II, it was the startup time of microelectronics, and they declared it critical, and they forbid the export as well at that time to Russians because they were identified already as not being in the same party. It is as well critical, identified in Germany, because it is very required for every technology for energy transition. Why I'm talking about that? Tin is as well very rare, and that's the opportunity I'm talking about with First Tin, because we own and we develop a number of tin resources, of tin mining resources. I will show you a map later on why it is so rare around the world. What can we provide? We are very advanced. We have very advanced tin mining projects, so we are one of the rare ones that will really deliver tin into the supply chain until year 2030, where the ramp up is declared and required and asked for all those electrical technologies. We own those assets, and for our benefit, they are as well situated in very secure, in very good jurisdictions, because they are situated in Australia and in Germany. So we do not have a risk that we can't develop it further. And as well, we have a very experienced management team. So if we jump one further, maybe a few words about myself. Before I joined First Tin about 1.5 years ago, I was the COO of Arubis, a big German non-ferrous metal producer, and by the way, the biggest tin producer in Europe. So I'm used to operate and run tin production units, and we can cover with our board a wide variety of experiences. So we have our chairman Charlie, which is very used to raising capital into capital markets, so to provide us with the necessary money. We have with Catherine, a very experienced lawyer, so to bring us on the safe side. Jumping over to the right side of the slide with Nick Mader, a very experienced mine finder. So the gentleman is one of the finders of Soul Gold, so one of the big one copper mines, the big pending one copper mines to develop, or Ingo, which is very experienced in mine financing. Seamus, a senior guy in running mines and experienced running mines in Australia. Where is tin used for? So its major application for tin is solder, so it joins together. It is the glue for all electrical contacts. And if we look into the forecasts of the critical technologies like electromobility, we heard already today that from 2035 onwards, the European Union believes that it will ban all the sales of internal combustion motors, even that there is some resistance from a little German party, so it's not decided yet, but most probably they will find a solution for that, and the majority of cars in Europe will become electrical. And all over the world, the assumption is that in 2030, roughly 30% of the sold passenger cars will become electrical. That alone stands for an additional requirement, an additional demand of around 50,000 tons. 50,000 tons in usual terms doesn't sound so much. If you think about steel, it's a tiny volume, but for tin, it's huge. Because today we mine about 300,000 tons tin only. If you imagine to add there another 50,000 tons, it's huge. And it doesn't foresee any additional requirements for tin for photovoltaics, because the contacts there are as well so-called tin ribbons, so there is a lot of tin in, or any growth rate for communication and microelectronics. If you add that all up, all demands, then it calls for another 100,000 tons, so 1/3 more mining required to fulfill all those requirements in 2030. And if you look to supply side, there are only mines for around 50,000 tons under development. What means that? Tin will remain rare, and there is most probably as well a good support for prices. Let's see if tin will become declared as well critical within the European Union. So today is the due date for the Critical Raw Materials Act. I haven't seen it yet, so let's see what will be the outcome. Where is tin in the price curve? So we have this analysis from the gentleman Dominic Frisby, so it's not something that we have developed, and then we see a lot of volatility, but at least bull markets for requirements. And we can identify times where tin price is low. So we had the collapse of the International Tin Council where the price dropped, but we see as well the rising tin price after the pickup of electromobility, energy transition technology, as well as requirements for microelectronics. And the hypothesis is that we are in the middle of a bull cycle. So it's usually 800 to 900% difference between the low and the high side of the tin price. Currently, tin price dropped back about 50%, so around same time last year, we were at roughly $50,000 per ton of tin. Actually, we are at 23, so there is a lot of headroom. I talked already about the fact that tin is rare and it's not evenly distributed in the world as well. So all the red dots represent larger tin resources that are there in the world. What do we see first? It's one of the rare metals that doesn't exist almost not in the Americas, while they usually have all and everything. That's maybe one of the triggers as well why they declared tin as critical. But what we can see as well, so it's a high concentration in Asia, so in Indonesia, in Myanmar, as well in China, and in South America, in Bolivia. So if we add all that up, about 80% of the tin, of the today mined tin, comes out of developing countries, while our resources, our projects are located in Germany and Australia, so really in safe jurisdictions. And there is the International Tin Association that did an analysis across the existing tin mining projects, and their degree of maturity, and they came to the conclusion that there are only 11 mining projects mature enough to potentially enter into production until 2030. So to deliver those demanded 50 to 100,000 tons. And the good message is, out of those 11, 3 are already in our portfolio, and they are identified as well as the most advanced ones. And if we put our portfolio together, we represent the 5th largest undeveloped resource outside Russia, outside Kazakhstan, and outside the Democratic Republic of Congo, which represent itself as well not really very safe and secure jurisdictions and countries to export then the metal into our portfolios. Let's jump and report and talk about the first one of our projects, so about Taronga. It's situated about 4 hours drive south of Brisbane in Australia. It will become a big open pit mine. What have we done so far since I presented last time to you? We started to spend money. We have published yesterday that we have nearly finished our drilling campaign, bringing us in a position that we expect an update of the resource statement until the end of Q2 this year. That will become a substantial part of our definitive feasibility study that is work in progress and that we expect to finalize until end of the year in order to keep our promised time frame. Taronga itself represents as well a quite robust profitability case. If we use the $25,000 as a baseline for our profitability calculation, so that's the base case as well for all metal price forecasts, we come to a pre-tax NPV of $90 million and an IRR of around 38%, with a higher upside potential because it is based only and exclusively of the assumption that we use the tin that is in as a revenue driver. The open pit mine has a big advantage compared with other mining projects because the strip ratio is very low. We need to move only 1 ton of waste in order to dig 1 ton of ore. We have quite recently bought water rights, so to address another risk that is sometimes coming with mining projects. And we are aiming as well to install and to partner with a company that will install us a PV power plant in order to deal as well with the high energy prices that we are facing all over, and we are investigating as well what options are there in order to adapt as well our production cycle into the daytime, so the big consumers running during daytime, in order to bridge then and to benefit really from the PV energy generation. We are sitting in a preferred area of New England for renewable energy generation. Therefore, we received as well funding in order to do exactly that study for PV farm, and on top as well to identify the option to install there as well as melting and refining equipment and a smelter in order to treat maybe the tin concentrate that we mine there as well. Jumping over to Germany, the project is situated about 250 kilometers south of Berlin in former East Germany, in a region that is called in German Erzgebirge, so ore mountains, with a very, very long mining history and a lot of people that are very proud of their mining history. Therefore, as well, we are very welcome there. We have there a project which is different to our Australian ones. So in Australia, we talk about a low-grade open pit mining, so a big volume, while we talk in Germany about a high-grade underground mining with as well a very mature business case. So there we are talking about 170 million US dollar NPV and an IRR at 43% at 25. Once more, the base case for the price assumption. And you see me here in front of a former mine, which is our neighbor, which represents there has been mining until 1990, and that's the reason as well why people are still used to mining. Maybe the one or another may ask the question, is it possible at all to get a permit for mining in Germany? Yes, it is, and it is as well very welcome there in the region. What have we done so far in Germany? We as well have performed there a drilling campaign. The results confirmed the drilling results from the past. Why was that necessary? Because the drilling results from the past are coming from the 1970s and 1980s. Therefore, we did that, so they confirmed the high-grade tin mineralization in the asset. We submitted our environmental impact assessment to the Saxonian Mining Authority, which is the authority in charge, and we expect the feedback within the coming weeks and will start then immediately into the construction and operational permitting process. In parallel of that, we execute our definitive visibility study that is ongoing. We have there a slight delay in our drilling campaign. Therefore, we will finish our DFS not until end of the year, but most probably during the course of the first half of the coming year. We are now focusing onto the further process to mature our Australian asset. ESG is coming out of the core of our heart. So we see ourselves as one of the rare, not in the view of appearance of the metal, but one of the rare ethical sources of tin that is available in the world, and we will provide our tin into the growing demand coming from the energy transition. We will do that in a very professional, sustainable, and responsible manner, as well respecting the communities where we are acting in. And for sure, we aim to operate our assets very safely. We achieved a BBB rating for our ESG performance in October last year, and the audit was done by Digby. We are listed in London and in Frankfurt. We have issued 266 million shares, and what you see here is at least the price curve of tin. So there we are not very happy for sure with the performance of our share price, but we can't control it. And I have to admit, there we are in good neighborhood to everybody else in the tin world as well. As bad as it is. But the directors as well as I are invested as well, so we share the pain for sure of our shareholders. There is a lot of opportunity if we compare ourselves to our dear competitors, so for instance to Antrata Metals and Cornish. By the way, Cornish Metals operation and project is very comparable to our German project, so it's a very deep one, underground project. There is a lot of opportunity in particular if we see their evaluation of around $800 per ton of tin in resource compared to our 100. I hope I could take you of a journey into the tin world, as well as to explain you why tin is really of essence for all those aims, for all those targets that we have on our wish list. So to act and to minimize CO2 emission, as well to get enough electrical cars on the street and to install enough renewable energy generation capacity in order to replace coal-fired power plants. For all of those installations, tin is of essence, tin is necessary, and we are there and as well in the right time to exactly provide and to supply that tin. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Thomas. Okay, any questions for Thomas, please? This gentleman here, Peter. Does that lady want a glass of water over there?
Hi, Thomas. One of your lines under the case for investment, you say that tin enables digital revolution.
Yeah.
How does that work?
If you look the boards, then every integrated circuit is soldered on those boards, and without solder you cannot join together all those electrical connections. So that's the reason why it is an enabler. So it's not part of the IC, but it's providing the electrical connection within the boards, and it joins together.
What's digital about that? I can't hear the digitalization.
If you for digitization you need microelectronic, yeah, and microelectronic requires electrical connection.
Okay.
And with providing this electrical connection by soldering, by gluing it together, that's the reason why it is an enabler.
Okay, lovely, thank you.
I'm guessing there's a lot of scientific research on alternatives to tin.
Sorry?
Alternatives are to tin. I'm guessing there's a lot of research being done. And secondly, automation, making these boards, is that wasting tin, or is it more efficient than human beings? I'm looking for some projection of future demand.
Yes. So look, if we look the use cases, so about 50 to 52% of the total tin consumption goes into the solder production. Yeah. While there are other applications as well. So there is the good old tin can, which is still a growing market by about 2% per year. There are tin chemicals. Stabilizers for plastics, for instance, are made out of tin, so that keep the plastic transparent, and as well a number of other use cases. So let's focus onto the major use case, because that's the growth driver, solder. Yeah? And I explained where it all ends in, and even if the predicted demand will not end up at 100,000 ton until 2030, with about 50, most probably it is more than we will see additional mining projects. Coming to your second part of the question, miniaturization. Miniaturization happened during the course of the last years, in particular for the soldering dots. Yeah. By the way, to in particular automate the process, so it's not anymore a manual process like maybe we know it if we have that microelectronic as a hobby, but in industry it is automated. And for sure, like in every other process as well, industry is always aiming to miniaturize further, but there is a minimum of volume required in order to fix the electronic equipment on the board. One, second, to achieve a safe and secured electrical contact. And then the next question might be, or could be, okay, what is the alternative? Silver would be a good alternative, which is not cheaper, neither more available, and has as well another drawback. You need higher temperatures, and usually electronic circuits doesn't like temperature. And the difference is between roughly 200, 220 for tin, while for silver it requires 930 degrees centigrade to melt it. In the past, a lot of lead was used in solders. That has been replaced due to the reason that lead is poison. It is still part of solder that is used in military application, but that's not a big volume. And I don't expect that the regulators will allow that lead will return back into solder. And if we look the other use cases, well, for the tin can, tin is still the most stable metal. If we look food and the acid that is usually coming with the food, maybe for the chemicals there are other applications, other stabilizers we can imagine, but usually it takes about 10 years to do that. So there is a certain timeline as well necessary, and for the time being, well, it was not very high ranked, I would say, at scientists to look for other stabilizers, because the tin-based stabilizers are non-poisoning, and that's a big benefit, because usually if you look replacements that are maybe better adaptable, they are usually not the best ones, so you have to take a lot of measures to apply that. So means nothing then. Yes, there are alternatives foreseeable, but there is enough headroom of the additional 50,000 tons demand coming only from solder case, assuming every other application will have a zero growth rate.
Sorry, I only been waiting, sir. Quickly, if you won't mind. Thank you very much.
So Germany and Europe are very much into the circular economy, and with the amount of mobile phones, how long they last, and things that get thrown in the bin and recycled. What about tin reclamation? Can it not be done? Is it not being done? Is it not a competitor to you?
There is tin recycling. Today we talk about 80,000 tons. So the total world consumption annually is in the range of 380,000. 300,000 out of mining, about 80 from recycling. The challenge with the recycling is there is only very little tin in every application. While there is more silver in, there is more copper in, there is more nickel in. And those are the technological drivers for the recycling. And tin usually then ends up in the slag. So you need to treat a huge amount of slag for a very little tiny quantity of tin, and nobody will pay for that.
Okay.
So most probably recycling will play a role, but we don't expect those substantial recycling rates like we see for high concentrated materials like copper or lead, what we have today.
Thank you, Thomas. Thank you very much indeed for your presentation.